The series starts with Maho waking up late and rushing to catch the bus to university. While on the bus, she tries to apply eyeliner to complete her look, but it falls. A charming boy picks it up for her, and she thanks him by offering him some biscuits. When she gets off the bus, she opens her bottle of soda, which spills all over her face, embarrassing her. The same boy helps her again by giving her his handkerchief before walking away, taking her heart with him as he goes. She daydreams about him until her friend Min snaps her out of it. On the other side, Hani is waiting for the bus to university when he strikes up a conversation with Rosa, a girl standing next to him. She asks if he's heading to university too, so they can share a taxi and split the fare since the bus seems delayed. He agrees, but upon arrival, he realizes he doesn't have any money. He gives her a voucher for a free meal instead and thanks her before leaving. Later, he meets up with his girlfriend, Jimin, who is part of the most famous couple at the university, known as the Magnetic Duo, because they're inseparable. Meanwhile, Majo tells her friend about the boy she met and how she admired him. Her friend teases her, saying she barely talked to him. She responds that anyone carrying a handkerchief must be polite and from a good family. After all, it's a well-known sign. Later, they attend a computer engineering lecture where Majo tries to show off. After the lecture, Min meets a girl named Yang, who turns out to be John's friend. Majo keeps repeating her name, telling Min how lovely her own name sounds when pronounced. Meanwhile, Jimin runs into Rosa in the bathroom and realizes they've been friends since high school. They sit together for lunch and catch up. That night, Maho moves into the university dorms, where she ends up sharing a room with Jimin and another girl named Young. Young introduces herself and explains that she has diabetes, instructing them on how to help her if needed. At the same time, Min moves into his dorm room, which he shares with Hani and a guy named Jin. Jin immediately bonds with them and tells them to check out a viral confession post in the university group. The anonymous post describes someone's love story in a heartwarming way and mentions the song Map Latte, which perfectly expresses the writer's feelings. The confession becomes a university-wide sensation. Time passes, and everyone on campus starts listening to Map Latte, imagining the person they're in love with. Min tells Maho about an app he created for dating called Bob Tang, which connects students with similar food preferences at the cafeteria to share meals together. Majo encourages him to promote the app in the university group and teases him about becoming romantic since meeting Young. She jokes, "She's gorgeous, but don't get too excited. Even if she likes you back, she'll dump you in a month like all the others." At the same time, Jimin and Sora are part of the university's cheerleading team. Sora becomes the leader since she's older than Jimin. Later, Sora gets a message from a former high school classmate asking for Jimin's number after seeing their picture together. Sora recalls how Jimin was always popular in high school and remembers that her crush back then actually liked Jimin instead. Meanwhile, Maho uses the app and gets matched with John, who turns out to be quite charming. She starts to fall for him, and the app quickly gains popularity among the students, with everyone using it. Maho later applies for a part-time job at a cafe and gets hired on the spot without an interview because the cafe manager is smitten with her. The group decides to celebrate the start of the academic year. During the gathering, Maho arrives, and everyone learns that she and Min have been friends for 12 years, which is why they know everything about each other and are so close. Haniel sits next to Sora, and during a drinking game, drinks her shot of alcohol like a gentleman. She thanks him and brings him a drink to sober up, introducing herself and mentioning they're in the same department. Afterward, as he gets up to leave, she follows him outside. Mayo notices this and realizes he's Jimin's boyfriend. As Sora is about to get hit by a motorcycle, Haniel pulls her to safety. Jimin sees this and decides to introduce them to each other, during which Sora finds out that Haniel is Jimin's boyfriend. At the same time, Min, Maho, and John are walking back from their outing. They discuss their dreams for the future, with Min expressing his goal of joining Levant Software, the biggest tech company in the region. John reveals that he is the CEO of that company. The next day, Majo encourages her friends to download the app, spreading its popularity further. After cheerleading practice, Rosa slyly asks Jimin about her boyfriend's class schedule, pretending to offer help with notes and assignments since they're in the same department. Maho, during her lectures, sends Min 100 questions about John's likes and tells him to find a way to get the answers. Young also uses the Bob Tang app and gets matched with Jin. As they talk, she notices he has an obsession with cleanliness and order. After carefully studying John's answers, Mayo decides to join the club he's part of. Despite it being a programming club full of engineers, she manages to fit in. Meanwhile, Rosa makes it a point to attend every lecture with Haniel and tries to get closer to him. Her intentions are far from pure, and one day, while applying lipstick, she accidentally spills it on herself. Haniel, being a gentleman, offers her his shirt. Later, they head to the cafeteria, where Haniel tells Jimin about the incident. The two sit together and chat, clearly enjoying each other's company. Meanwhile, Mayo starts hanging out with John and his clubmates, using every opportunity to bring up topics John loves. She talks about movies, baseball, and even his favorite team, having memorized all 100 answers she had gathered. The next day, the cheerleading team's commercial is released, and Rosa feels upset when she sees she only appeared briefly, while Jimin had much more screen time. Rosa remembers how the boy she liked in high school confessed he loved Jimin and only approached Rosa because she was Jimin's friend. Out of jealousy, Rosa takes Jimin's cheerleading uniform, throws it in the trash, and spills coffee on it. The next day, during the performance, Jimin realizes her uniform is missing. Rosa thinks the team captain will remove Jimin from the performance, but the entire team decides to change their uniforms to match Jimin, as they all rely on her for the show. After the performance, Jimin finds her uniform in the trash and feels deeply hurt. Maho comforts her, saying, "Don't let it upset you. Maybe someone found it on the ground and threw it away. Even if someone dislikes you, I love you." The next day, Haniel subtly asks Jimin if there's anything she'd like to share, but Jimin brushes it off, saying there's nothing to talk about. Later, Haniel is in a study session with Rosa, and she helps him finish his work. He gets a notification about his parents' wedding anniversary. Since his father is deceased, he feels obligated to call and be with his mother. Rosa suggests he send her a cake as an apology for not being able to visit. Rosa immediately orders the cake herself, choosing the design and entering the address, taking control of the situation. Afterward, Haniel meets Jimin, and they have lunch together. During their conversation, Jimin notices that Rosa has the same couple's keychain that Majo gave her, in the same color as Haniel's. Rosa quickly lies, saying, "It was a buy one, get one free deal. And I forgot to tell you." Their conversation is interrupted by a message from Haniel's mother thanking him for the cake. Jimin realizes it was Rosa who sent it and feels uneasy. At the end of the day, Jimin tells Haniel she was a little upset because she thought she should have been the one to choose the gift. Haniel apologizes, saying Rosa didn't give him a chance to decide. The issue is resolved without further tension. The next day, Min accompanies his sister to meet her fiancé. During the meeting, they announce their wedding date, which is set for the near future. This brings back memories for Min of how his sister gave up her studies to work and care for him. He recalls how she was always there for him, but he quickly snaps out of it and expresses happiness for her, asking her fiancé to take good care of her. Meanwhile, John is dining with his father at the same restaurant. His father advises him to prove himself by succeeding in programming and app development so he can follow in his footsteps. John lies, claiming he created a university club and developed an app called Bob Tang, which is actually Min's app. That night, Jimin visits Rosa's house, and they spend the evening chatting. Rosa slyly brings up Haniel, asking Jimin about his likes and dislikes and noting the differences between them. To avoid suspicion, Rosa pretends she's interested in another guy in her department, promising to introduce Jimin to him if anything develops between them. At the same time, Min is with Maho, drinking and venting about his sister's wedding. It turns out Min had been saving money for years to cover the wedding expenses himself, as a way of repaying his sister for all the sacrifices she made for him. However, the money he has saved isn't enough, leaving him frustrated and upset. The next day, Maho dresses up like the actress John admires to catch his attention. When John sees her, he tells her how beautiful she looks and offers to give her a ride. Min, noticing this, pretends to have a leg injury so he can join them. In class, the professor assigns a task for the students to take pictures of each other for half an hour and submit their best shot for evaluation. The students head out to complete the task. and it becomes evident that Yang has a crush on Min. She takes pictures of him and tries to get closer to him. Meanwhile, Mayo decides to photograph John in an effort to get closer to him as well. Rosa, jealous and bitter, spends her time watching Haniel and Jimin together, fuming silently. When the students present their photos in class, Min submits a silly photo of Maho. Unexpectedly, the professor notices a photo of Haniel and asks who took it. It turns out that Rosa, the schemer, was the one who captured it. After class, Rosa tells Jimin, "I took a lot of photos, but I submitted the one of Haniel because it was the best. I need good grades to pass." Later, Yang's mother calls to check on her and asks her to measure her blood sugar level and send the result. Yang, who has been struggling with unstable blood sugar levels, gets help from Jin to take a blood sample. She then explains her condition to him, revealing that she has diabetes. Meanwhile, Mayo and Min are hanging out together when John walks in and asks Maho to go to a photo exhibition with him, treating it as a date. This bothers Min, who leaves visibly upset, revealing his feelings for Majo. That evening, Jimin joins Haniel to play PUBG. Even though Jimin isn't good at the game, she participates because Haniel wants to play it with his girlfriend. Predictably, Rosa inserts herself into the situation, joining them to play. Despite being skilled, Rosa's plan to overshadow Jimin fails, as Haniel enjoys playing with Jimin. Later that night, they all gather with Min and Maho to spend time together. During their hangout, an anonymous confession is posted on the university's confession page, revealing someone's feelings for one of the people in the photos. The post includes pictures of Maho, Jimin, and Haniel, leaving everyone curious. The next day, during a break from practice, Rosa slyly asks Jimin the name of her perfume, and even plans to join Jimin, Haniel, and Jin for a maze game Jin had reserved earlier. Jimin, who gets scared easily, reluctantly agrees to participate. In the meantime, Maho and John head out for their photo exhibition date. On their way, it begins to rain. Majo asks John to stop and apologizes, saying they can reschedule the date. She runs off, leaving John behind. At the same time, Min is standing in the rain, reminiscing about the accident involving his parents, which also happened during a rainy night. He recalls Maho bringing him an umbrella as a child. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by Maho, who shows up with an umbrella for him. She tells him, "Even though it's been 12 years since your parents' accident, I still don't know how to ease your pain. All I can do is bring you an umbrella, stand with you in the rain, and be by your side. That's why I left my date to come to you." The following day, Rosa joins Jimin, Haniel, and Jin for the maze game, which Jin had intentionally chosen to be a horror-themed experience. Jimin, terrified of horror, ends up clinging to Haniel for comfort. After the game, Rosa secretly keeps the scarf Jimin left behind after hugging Haniel, further feeding her obsession. That night, Rosa logs into Haniel's Netflix account to see what he's been watching and starts watching the same shows to make it seem like they have similar interests. Meanwhile, Mayo uses the university app and gets matched with someone who was previously rejected by another girl. However, her luck changes when Min calls her and reminds her to finish her assignments to avoid failing. Mayo promises to make it up to him and runs off, leaving Min feeling rejected like before. Frustrated, Min logs into the app and vents his anger, cursing the app and its creator. Meanwhile, Jimin starts observing Rosa's behavior closely and feels uneasy about her. At the same time, Mayo goes on her date with John, and he plays her a song, Map Latte, which makes her realize it was the same song mentioned in the confession post. When they arrive at the photo exhibition, Min shows up with Yang, deliberately disrupting their date. Every time Majo and John get a moment alone, Min interrupts them like an unavoidable obstacle. Jimin continues to suspect Rosa, and when her phone dies, she borrows Rosa's phone to call Haniel. She notices a saved contact with a nickname and confronts Rosa about it. Rosa explains that she found Haniel's name in a game and thought it was a cool nickname, so she saved it. Meanwhile, Maho, frustrated by the lack of alone time with John, decides to take him out to dinner, leaving Min and Yang behind. Min, feeling restless, stays in his dorm but soon heads out under the pretense of buying something. When he encounters Majo and John, he pretends he changed his mind and confronts John privately, asking if he has feelings for Maho. John, surprised, insists that he and Majo are just friends and have known each other for 12 years without any romantic connection. The next day, Jimin accidentally discovers Rosa's secret second account, filled with photos of the sky. Among them is a picture of Haniel, with a caption saying she loves the sky. Since sky in Korean, Hanyul, is similar to Haniel's name, Jimin pieces everything together and finally understands Rosa's true intentions. At the same time, Majo is using the dating app again and matches with the same person as before. This time, the guy has a plan to get back at her. He invites her to eat at a restaurant outside the university, only to take her to a secluded location to harm her. Min, growing worried, searches for Majo everywhere, both on and off campus. Jimin, having realized Rosa's manipulative nature, confronts her directly. Majo manages to escape the dangerous situation, but the guy chases her until John intervenes and rescues her. When Min finds Majo, she breaks down in tears. However, Rosa, trying to deflect blame, accuses Majo of imagining things due to her obsession with Haniel. Rosa claims that she only got close to Haniel because Jimin asked her to help him study. To twist the narrative further, Rosa introduces the guy who just attacked Majo as her supposed boyfriend from the same department, leaving Majo doubting herself. Jimin apologizes to Rosa for misunderstanding her, but Rosa refuses to accept the apology. Min takes Majo to the police and the perpetrator is dealt with. Min then tells Majo he's deleting the app because he can't support something that caused her harm. Majo thanks him, saying she managed to escape because of the pepper spray he gave her. He gently asks her not to make him worry about her again. The next day, Majo goes to the university gym to work out. When Min learns the gym is full of men, he rushes over to her. When John joins them to work out, Min gets jealous and starts lifting heavy weights to impress Majo, only to injure himself and spend the next day bedridden. Meanwhile, Rosa shifts her focus to Jin, trying to manipulate him to get closer to Haniel. Jin, unaware of her motives, tells her about an upcoming trip with the group, including Haniel, to his family villa to complete a class project. Rosa eagerly decides to join them. When Jimin sees Rosa again, she apologizes for doubting her and says she doesn't want to lose her as a friend. Rosa, pretending to forgive her, reconciles with Jimin. At the same time, Majo convinces John to join the villa trip. The group continues to follow every confession post on the university page as the anticipation builds. The next day, they all travel to the villa and start working on their photography project. Min, however, constantly shadows Majo, interrupting every moment she tries to get closer to John. At night, when they all go to the villa, Rosa brings the same perfume Haniel had gifted Jimin. Rosa casually mentions, "Oh, I bought this by chance because I liked its scent." Later, the group gathers to play games and drink. At the end of the evening, Rosa and Jimin go for a walk, but Rosa sneaks back to style her hair exactly like Jimin's and sprays on the same perfume. Meanwhile, Haniel, drunk and disoriented, starts looking for Jimin. Mistaking Rosa for Jimin due to her hairstyle and perfume, he hugs her from behind, unable to tell the difference. Jimin sees this and becomes upset. She apologizes to Rosa and leaves Haniel, walking away in frustration. As for Majo, she takes the chance to confess her feelings to John, nervously telling him not to dismiss her like an afterthought. Min, watching them from afar, feels heartbroken and helpless. The next morning, Majo wakes up with no memory of the previous night. As the group packs up to leave, Majo begins to recall fragments of her confession when she notices John taking an interest in her, asking about her hobbies, and suggesting they go to the cinema together after they return. Jimin later confronts Haniel about what happened. He apologizes, explaining that he didn't realize it wasn't her because Rosa had styled herself similarly, and he was too drunk to notice. He promises it won't happen again, and they reconcile. Haniel heads to the lab to work on his project, but Rosa, seizing the moment, asks him to return the notes she had lent him. She insists she needs them urgently and convinces him to bring them to her house. When Haniel arrives at Rosa's place, he sees her arguing with another student, warning him to stay away. After the student leaves, Rosa starts crying and asks Haniel to stay with her because she's scared of the guy stalking her. Reluctantly, Haniel agrees, but tells Rosa not to tell Jimin, fearing she'll be upset if she finds out he knew about the situation before she did. Later, as Haniel leaves Rosa's house, the stalking student secretly takes pictures of them together and posts them on the university group chat. Meanwhile, Maho and John are on a movie date, and Mayo finds herself unable to stop thinking about him. Jimin, on the other hand, sees the photo of Haniel and Rosa on the group chat. She confronts Haniel, accusing him of lying to her. Haniel explains what happened and apologizes, but Jimin decides they need to take a break from their relationship and walks away. The next day, Jimin sees the student Rosa was with previously and questions him. He reveals that he isn't even in the same department as Rosa. In fact, they met by chance at a meeting, and he's actually in a relationship with someone else entirely, exposing another one of Rosa's lies. Haniel apologizes to Jimin and promises never to lie to her again. He asks her not to distance herself from him, and they reconcile. Meanwhile, Mayo finds out that John went on a blind date arranged by his friends. Feeling hurt, she breaks down in tears, thinking he's toying with her feelings. Min notices her distress and takes her to the cinema to cheer her up. He even convinces her to sing karaoke to release all her pent-up frustration. At the end of the day, John calls Maho and asks to meet her. He explains that he went on the blind date to clarify his feelings about someone and to make another person feel jealous. Elsewhere, Jimin confronts Rosa, who shamelessly admits that she has been interested in Haniel since the first day she saw him. She confesses that even after learning he was Jimin's boyfriend, she couldn't stop her feelings, especially since Haniel seemed to give her opportunities to get closer to him. Rosa taunts Jimin, saying she had asked him to get close to her because they're supposed to be friends. Rosa concludes with a mocking statement, "You're afraid I'll steal him from you because you're not sure he truly loves you. After all, you're completely different in every way." Jimin meets with Haniel later but doesn't mention the confrontation with Rosa. She wants to confirm his love for her. The next day is his birthday, and she buys him a gift. They plan to meet, but he gets delayed. Someone tells Jimin they saw Haniel with a girl, making her immediately suspect Rosa. She rushes to find him, recalling everything Rosa has done. However, when she arrives, she finds Haniel with a younger girl who is simply borrowing his books because she can't afford her own. The girl apologizes for delaying him and ruining his plans. Despite this explanation, Jimin feels her trust in Haniel has been shaken. She tells him she doesn't know if she can trust him anymore and walks away. Both of them return to their respective friends and break down in tears. The next day, Jimin skips her team practice. News of their breakup spreads across the university group chat. Meanwhile, Majo walks with John and tells him about a post by Dear M announcing they'll confess their love after Monday's lecture. She's excited because she suspects John might be the person behind it. John then encourages her to participate in the university festival's host competition, saying it would be great experience for her dream of becoming a sports announcer. At the same time, Min discovers that he's been scammed by the company he invested all his money into. When he tries to file a report, he has no evidence to support his claim and realizes he has lost all his savings. Maho, upon hearing what happened, rushes to comfort him. She cries with him, remembering how hard Min had worked from a young age, sacrificing his childhood and teenage years to save that money. Later, they go out for drinks, and Min tells her he plans to drop out of school to find a job and save up money before his sister's wedding. Maho encourages him to stay focused on his studies, reminding him that his sister wouldn't be happy if he quit school for her sake. She reassures him that she believes in his ability to overcome this challenge. The next day, Majo asks John to convince Min not to drop out of school. John talks to him and manages to persuade him, telling him about an app development competition where the first prize is 30 million won. He reminds Min that he's skilled in programming and app development. Min agrees, especially after remembering his sister's words about how proud she is of him in front of her fiancé's family. He begins preparations for the competition with John, while also attending team practices. During practice, Jimin and Rosa compete against each other in the team leader elections. Afterward, Jimin goes to eat alone because her friends are busy. The restaurant owner seats her at a table with a young man due to the crowded restaurant. The man already knows her, but she doesn't recognize him. He shares some milk with her to help with the spicy food. Then he jokes that she owes him a favor and insists they eat together again. He takes her number and introduces himself as Dam. It turns out Dam has been interested in Jimin since the first day of school, when they accidentally bumped into each other. He was also the one who took the picture of her that she couldn't figure out who the photographer was. Meanwhile, Maho visits her mother, who learns that Maho has feelings for someone other than Min. Her mother expresses her preference for Min, saying she likes him more. Majo insists that she and Min have been friends for 12 years, and there's nothing romantic between them. Her mother counters, suggesting that Min likely has feelings for her and she simply doesn't realize it. She explains that every time Min has broken up with someone, it was because his girlfriend couldn't accept his closeness with Majo. At the same time, Young asks Min if he doesn't want to leave the single life and start dating. Min responds that he doesn't have time for relationships. The next day, during practice, the team captain assigns Jimin to lead the choreography, leaving Rosa upset. Jimin later discovers 2 team members in a relationship but promises them she won't tell the captain, who would force them to break up to maintain focus during practices. On the day of the Dear M confession, after the lecture, Young confesses her love for Min in front of everyone. The students encourage him to accept, and he does, but later pulls her aside to clarify. He tells her he only accepted to avoid embarrassing her, but unfortunately, he's in love with someone else. As for Rosa, she stirs up trouble by exposing the couple in the team and blaming Jimin for revealing the secret. Jimin confronts Rosa, saying, "What's your problem with me? I even left Haniel for you, isn't that enough?" Rosa retorts, admitting she hates Jimin for no reason and walks away. Later, Mayo focuses on her studies and goes to a cafe to study. Min joins her, and she starts wondering who he's in love with. She sneaks a look at his phone and finds a note that reads, "I laugh because of you whenever I'm upset." This keeps her awake all night, but she reassures herself that it must be nothing because they're just friends. The next day, after exams, Jimin meets Dam again and they share a meal together. While they're eating, Jimin notices Haniel watching them from afar, looking upset. The next day, a bouquet of flowers arrives at the room shared by Majo, Jimin, and Young. None of them know who the flowers are meant for, but Mayo assumes they are for her when she sees the flower shop calling John's number. Meanwhile, Jimin and Dam grow closer, spending more time together and discovering many shared interests. On the first day of the festival, everyone has a great time. That evening, Majo hosts the event as a lively and charming MC, winning the admiration of everyone present. Later, Min performs on stage, making the day even more memorable. The following day at the festival, John's Club sets up a booth. To draw attention and increase donations, Majo dresses in a retro 90s style, which captures everyone's interest. That night, the group is surprised to learn that John has a girlfriend who attends the festival to cheer him on. She thanks Mayo for helping with the preparations, admitting she's not skilled at such tasks. At the same time, Jin sees Jimin enjoying herself with Dam at the festival, laughing and having a great time. He drinks excessively until he's drunk. Rosa finds him and sits with him, but when Jimin approaches, Rosa quickly grabs Jin's hand, pretending they're a couple. Meanwhile, Mayo feels heartbroken and leaves John and his girlfriend alone, heading to the stage to cry. Min finds her and tries to comfort her. She pours her heart out, telling him how John played with her feelings and how she's never felt loved. At that moment, Min confesses his love for her and kisses her. The next day, Mayo confronts Min, suggesting that what happened might have been due to them drinking or the festival atmosphere. Min reassures her that they were completely sober and that his feelings are real. He explains that he realized the depth of his love for her when he saw her feelings for John and could no longer suppress his emotions. However, Mayo asks him to reconsider his words to avoid regret, suggesting they should take some time apart to think. Rosa, on the other hand, tries to stir trouble by creating drama and rumors about Jimin and the team leader. She secretly photographs them standing together and spreads rumors in the group chat, implying they are dating and that's why the leader supports Jimin. Meanwhile, Mayo starts avoiding Min, leaving any place where she encounters him. One evening, John visits her at the cafe where she works and tells her he bought tickets for the baseball game they had planned to attend together. He teases her and acts sweet, but Majo loses her composure. She confronts him, telling him to stop playing with her feelings, as he knows very well how she feels about him. She explains that his actions made her believe he felt the same way, only for him to belittle her. She storms off to cry alone. Later that night, Mayo reflects on the positive side of having John in her life. She realizes that he helped her discover her dream of becoming a sports announcer. Inspired, she applies to a sports announcer competition. She discovers that Young has also applied for the same competition. Meanwhile, Min keeps trying to be wherever Majo is, but she continues to avoid him. The next day, Yonggu takes Maho to get their profile pictures taken for the competition, but Maho finds the prices too expensive compared to Young, who can afford it easily due to her wealth. Majo spends the night upset until her friends decide to help her by setting up a photo shoot themselves. They dress her up and take her pictures in the university studio with Jin's help. On their way back, Young suddenly faints, but Jin knows how to handle the situation and provides the necessary first aid before taking her to the hospital. When she regains consciousness, Jin hugs her tightly, worried about her condition. Meanwhile, Jimin is forced to return to the dorm with Hanyul. When others see them together, the news spreads across the university group, and Rosa, annoyed, comes across it. The next day in class, the professor assigns Jimin, Hanyul, and Dam to the same group for a project. They work on their assignment together, and manage to finish it successfully without any issues. As for Majo, she learns about a sports course but realizes it's far too expensive for her to afford. She wishes someone could help her but feels too shy to ask for assistance, knowing her financial situation. Instead, she decides to work on self-improvement without taking the course. One evening, Majo sees John in a conversation with his father, who mentions creating an app during his time at the university, only for it to fail. The conversation seems to hint at Min's app, Bob Ting. The following day, the entire group meets up, with Dam joining them. All the girls in the group find Dam charming, much to the annoyance of the guys, especially Hanyul. Min shares the news that he's reached the finals of the app development competition. Later, Rosa starts clinging to Hanyul, walking beside him when a motorcycle nearly hits her. Hanyul instinctively pulls her out of harm's way. Rosa takes this as a sign of his affection for her, especially since he had saved her before. However, he shocks her by clarifying that while he and Jimin have broken up, he still loves Jimin. He confesses that the only reason he got close to Rosa was because of her connection to Jimin, and if he had known about Rosa's feelings earlier, he would have stayed away. Meanwhile, Majo is recording for the university's radio station when she receives a new anonymous confession from Dear M. This time, the confession includes a specific number, which the sender claims only the girl he loves would recognize. That night, Min visits Majo and tells her he listened to her first radio broadcast. She asks him to stop being so kind to her, as it's difficult for her to ignore his feelings. He admits that he's struggling with her avoiding him and not wanting him to express his feelings. Majo explains that for 12 years, Min has been the first person she turns to whenever she's upset or facing a problem. However, she fears that if they date and things don't work out, or if he ever hurts her, their friendship will end, and she doesn't want to lose him. The next day, his sister comes to the university and tells them they must reconcile, because they have to perform a dance for her wedding. Meanwhile, Jun is with his father, who tells him to withdraw from the app development competition and let his company launch the app instead. Rosa, upset about Hanyul rejecting her, vents her anger by posting about Jimin and the team leader, spreading more rumors. Dam quickly takes Jimin away before she sees the posts and gets upset. He spends time with her, cooks for her, and tries to make her feel better. At the same time, Jin is with Yang, and when he learns there's a guy interested in her, and that they might start a relationship, he gets extremely jealous and confesses his love to her before leaving. The next day, the team leader receives a call from the team supervisor, who tells him he must act to refute the rumors about him and Jimin and distance himself from her. As a result, Jimin's team is excluded from the cheer festival. Meanwhile, Yang meets Jin and confesses her feelings for him too. They decide to keep their relationship a secret. Later, Jimin and Rosa go for the interview for the cheerleading captain position. Jimin accuses Rosa of posting the rumors, confronts her privately, and asks why she's hurting her. Rosa coldly replies that she enjoys causing her harm and wants to ruin her life. Jimin tells her she's sick and needs to seek help for the darkness and bitterness inside her. Rosa slaps Jimin, but Hanyul intervenes, scolding Rosa and warning her not to harm Jimin again. Elsewhere, Misho and Min practice the wedding dance for Min's sister. Majo feels very nervous, so Min reassures her that he doesn't want her to distance herself from him. Later, Majo plays karaoke to unwind, but notices a specific number displayed. It's the same number from the anonymous confession post. At the same time, Han Yul notices the book Dam gave Ji-min has the same number written on it. The next day, Han Yul tells Ji-min he loves her, and admits his past actions weren't intentional because he wasn't aware of his feelings. Ji-min tells him it's too late now. Young invites Majo and Min out for a date after the radio exam. Min agrees, but Majo seems upset. During the date, Min tells Young that he chooses Majo no matter who he's compared to. Young realizes this and tells Min she will stop loving him and step aside. When Min returns, he finds Majo waiting for him. She confesses her feelings, saying she's felt like she has butterflies every time she sees him since the incident. He hugs her. Meanwhile, Han Yul texts Ji-min to meet him in the lab. When she arrives, she finds a game he programmed specifically for her, containing all their shared moments. Touched, she confesses her love for him, explaining that her fear of losing him made her push him away. Han Yul reassures her that he will always choose her, and they get back together. Ji-min then apologizes to Dam, who had waited for her. She tells him she's with Han Yul now, and Dam thanks her for being his first love, wishing her happiness. Mayo starts improving her skills for the next sports broadcasting exam and supports another contestant by helping her join a broadcasting academy with a scholarship. Rosa, bitter and frustrated, resigns from the cheerleading team and distances herself from Ji-min. At Min's sister's wedding, Maho and Min perform their dance, and everyone enjoys the celebration. Jun confesses to his father that he couldn't buy the app and reveals the truth about lying. He explains that he just wanted to hear some support or encouragement from him for once. Jun declares that he'll leave college and the company because it's never been his passion. He wants to live his own life and succeed in his way. Later, Min's app receives offers from many companies after winning the competition, and Maho joins the Broadcasting Academy. The group attends a photo exhibition as couples, reflecting on their past experiences and how they've each grown. Finally, the mysterious anonymous confessor, Dear M, is revealed to be none other than Jin. It turns out it was all part of a research project he was conducting about the effects of college life on students. And with that, our story concludes. See you in another recap. Don't forget to subscribe for more. Check out more recaps you'll absolutely love right here.